Now, responsibility really is responsibility, an ability to respond properly. It's not a reaction. The difference between a reaction and a response, if you poke me with a pin and I say ouch, that's a reaction. If you poke me with a pin and I say, dude, you do that again, I'm going to charge you with assault, that's a response. Responsibility means you have accepted the liability and that you are able to respond properly. True responsibility is really a function of freedom. If you want to learn how to be free, you have to accept the highest level of responsibility you can. Freedom and responsibility go hand in hand, and that's why so many people fear freedom so much. It's a matter of looking in and not without. If you want power over your future, you have to accept you have been fully and completely responsible for your present. There is no outside group that you can point to and claim it's them and try to shift responsibility to them and then claim that you have authority over your reality. Accepting responsibility, most people will try to avoid it because it can lead to blame, and they think that that is a bad thing because then there's punishment associated with it. But if you simply look at it as a growth process of life, then you start seeing that mistakes, there's really no mistakes. You trip, you fall, you get up, you clean yourself off, you carry on, and you say, yeah, I'm responsible. Accepting responsibility for your now will allow you to create your future, because then you start accepting responsibility for your future. There's never a magic moment in time where suddenly you can avoid responsibility for your past or your present and then still claim power over your future. The more power you want over your future, the more responsibility you must accept for your present. This is what I found. Now, some people who have attempted to walk the free man path come back with reports that they have failed and that it doesn't work. You will get tested. It's not a pass so much as it is come and test me. If when they test you, your action is just a reaction to their stimuli, instead of a proper thoughtful response, they know that you're not responsible and they will just kick you right back down, essentially. Look at it to a certain degree like you're dealing with a nanny who is so used to dealing with completely irresponsible people who demand that she provide for them. Now here you're coming and saying, I'm going outside and I don't need you anymore. Nanny's going to have a certain duty to ensure that you are in fact capable and responsible. She's going to test you. And if you prove that you are in fact capable of a thoughtful response to the test that they bring, instead of simply reacting in essentially a childish manner, if you can do that, then they feel comfortable letting you go outside and play. And if you come back, if you identify yourself that you're going outside not to go play, but because there's adult work to do, who the hell are they to stop you? It all boils down to how your ability to respond to stimuli. If you can develop that so that when you are questioned or pushed or prodded, you do not respond with fear or anger or shame, but instead of making declarative statements, you can respond with an interrogatory, a question. And it's not just a stupid question. You can end up getting to a situation where these people who would otherwise try to stop you will in fact say, listen, if you want the responsibility, go ahead. But they do have a certain duty to stop those who are only capable of reaction and not of a proper thoughtful response. And the reason that is because they've been taking care of you for so long. And if you stop now, if you say, I don't need you anymore, and you try to run away and you're like a kid leaving the house, they're going to stop you. But if you accept the responsibility and the liability for your own actions, then you start getting to a point where a thoughtful response means that you're not someone they want to mess with. Essentially what we're all trying to do is to define our own realities and redefine what this new world order seems to have in store for us, so that we're not living in a corporate-run police state. In order for us to do that, we cannot afford to engage in reaction. It is simply too easy to manipulate you if what you're doing is always reactionary. A response, an intelligent response, that's an entirely different story. If we learn the difference and we employ these, we'll win. Do this, we're no better than sheep. Now, developing a response ability is fairly easy. I'd like to tell you, essentially there's 4 things. Think, identify, core, find a question, ask a question. Tell you a little story. I was in court. There was this guy, Brian Lutz. Very intelligent man, Brian Lutz. Hi, Brian. He was being asked questions by the prosecutor, and his response for like 4 minutes. And he wasn't just delaying, he was actively thinking. Every word he was breaking down in his mind, the definition, the assumption, the implication, every one. And he would identify within that question that he was asked, the core that the prosecutor was asking. He would then ask or find the question concerning how to clarify that core. He would then ask the question. The prosecutor didn't like it at all. He got real mad. Asked the judge, "Are you going to allow this?" The judge was like, "You're the one who brought him to court. You're asking him questions, the answers to which could land him in jail. I think he's being a very wise man, taking his time to answer your questions, and he can take all the time he needs." That's the truth too, especially in court, especially if you're dealing with people who are going to try to test you and to get you to react instead of respond. If you stop and you think about what their question is, and then you identify the core concern that their question is clearly trying to address, even though they might not mention it, figure out what question will help you prove to them that you have identified that core and you're seeking the clarification of it. And then ask them a question. The fact that you have identified the core and that you are asking a question that does identify the core of the concern that they're coming at you with will to a large degree identify you as one who is capable of response. When I was keeping this I was working for this after-hours club called Here on Earth, and I was talking to these 3 cops, and they were trying to, they were trying to poke me and see if I would react, and I was just properly responding the whole way. And the sergeant, he didn't like it, so he comes barreling up, and he's like, "Who's in charge here?" And I thought about it for a moment. I identified the core, I looked at what the assumptions and the implications were, and I said to him, I said, "Well, with that question, we know it's not you." Now, at this point, all his officers, they started kind of laughing and chuckling. And he looks at him, gave him an angry look, and then he turns around, and I said, "And since you're the one with the most stripes, we know it can't be any of them, since it's after dark and you're carrying guns and you haven't been called here as peace officers. Don't you think you're trespassing?" And it was by doing that that they saw that I was capable and that I had the ability to respond. Instead of just, "Ooh, who's in charge?" and answer his question. No, you don't just answer a question, nor do you make declaratory statements, because they always lead to conflict. The goal is to always be asking questions.